Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishamahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. What I thought is that it's becoming too much of us talking and you listening. So let's change a little bit the flow. And what I wanted to, just before we start the next step of meditation, I wanted to ask you with reference to the 8th chapter, which is obstacles to your journey, of Vedanta. Have you had any obstacles, which are your personal obstacles, where you felt that you were stuck and you didn't know how to move forward, and how did you resolve that? And what is your thinking now after you listened to these classes? Did you find some way forward? So it will be nice and little bit interactive for me to listen to you all as to what has been your personal struggle. So that's my first question to you. And how did you overcome this challenge?
Okay, next question.
Next question. No, it's a nice time to little bit think about, right? It's in your journey, what has happened and what kind of, when did you feel stuck and when you felt a little lost. And for nobody, it's just a linear, progressive journey. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey and hopefully you will open up. Yeah, that's good. You talk, it's good. But I'll tell you my journey, which is an interesting journey. It's a totally non-linear journey, right? So when I first listened to my teacher, so it was a 9 to 5 seminar, and the topic, it was a one-day seminar, and the topic was, who are you? What is the nature of the universe? And what is the nature of Ishvara? So basically, he talked about whole of Vedanta, right? Because that's Vedanta. Now, I was really interested, but the only thing which I retained was, he was telling me something about pot and clay. That's all. Pot and clay. What it means is, for me, that was interesting. Oh wow, he was teaching me about that relationship, that there are two names but one reality. Right? But what is your true nature? What is the nature of the universe? What is the nature of Ishvara? It all went above my head, but something about it created that little interest in me, and which I thought was totally unusual, right? So that was my only absorption of one day seminar. That, something about pot and clay. That's all I remember.
It was enough.
And that was enough. Exactly.
Enough for starts.
This is how it starts, right? So, as I got thinking about it, I went through several stages. Initially, I was so attracted by what was being said, and I thought it was so profound, and it was making me think about the universe in such interesting and new way. But then came my rational mind, and which is all full of doubts. How do I know Vedanta is the truth? What is this? It's a lovely idea, but why can't I treat it like one of the very interesting philosophy? Why do I have to accept it as the truth? Then my mind went on a completely different tangent. And then the mind is like, okay, I'm smart, let me find some fault with it. let me break it. Let me figure out where it is, where it is not acceptable.
Did you find
Do you understand? It's my own internal struggle with Vedanta. And nobody else knew anything. It is only what's going on within me. So what it then means is, then my mind is more like, oh, I don't want to accept Vedanta just because it is from my culture. My culture, so what? Anything can be in my culture. That doesn't make it right. So these are all the struggles and questions I had to go through. For 5 years, I struggled. 5 years. And in those 5 years, I had so many questions, and some of it was coming from the place of I wanted to understand better, but some of it was coming from my arrogance of wanting to prove that Vedanta is not right. It was all my pressure. And, a little bit of education from my parents, don't accept anybody's ideas just blindly. Think about it. And only you have to see the truth, and only then you can, not just somebody says something and you just start following that.
But this is what I always liked about Vedanta, that they never ask you to follow it blindly.
No.
They always ask you to research into yourself.
Yes, but Catherine, it's interesting, when somebody, I don't know if you met Swamiji, somebody as brilliant as him and as illuminating as him and has a large following, and I'm a young girl of 22 years old, don't forget that, right? And I'm one of so many, and I'm, in reality, in that crowd, I'm nobody. And this is my struggle. And you don't have somebody, I can't go up to Swamiji and just start questioning just like that, oh yeah, why should I believe in Vedanta? I can't do that.
And it was in India also.
So what it means is, this is my 5 years of struggle. What is my relationship with Vedanta? Do I take it as a philosophy, which is interesting, in which case it is just a philosophy which is interesting. I don't need to dedicate my life to it. Right? But if it is the truth, my relationship is different. Because if it is the truth, I need to spend time with it. I need to understand it. So what is the level of importance? And before I can establish that there is a truth, I have to use my intellect to see whether what Vedanta is saying is contradictable or not. So that was my whole thing of what is the place that I can give to Vedanta in my life. And I think what really helped me, was every time I overcame my own fear, because for me it was huge, it was very big, and I needed to resolve this conflict. So I fought my own fears, tremendous fears, to go up to Swamiji and ask him all the questions that I had. Not all together, but every time a question arose, I did not push it. I said, these answers are really important for me. And I overcame my fear, and with that whole thing, I went and asked him those questions. And I think that's where I see that he was so large in his understanding. And I was this little girl, and sometimes little rebellious questions, wanting to refute and in my own little intellectual way, not in a rude way, but just in my... And he was so kind, and not only he answered all those questions, but when he answered those questions, he really gave me a lot of attention. He looked into my eyes and he never made me feel, why are you asking this question? I'm a great Vedanta master, and who are you to kind of, challenge me in some ways, right? So he totally non-threatened, totally non-condescending. He looked into my eyes and he put in a lot of effort to explain to me the answers that I was seeking. And not only he encouraged me, and not only he validated me, but he also gave me a positive feedback, and he said, "You're really smart because you're thinking much more than an average person." Because he's so used to just people coming and listening to him and just saying wonderful and repeating. There was this somebody who was genuinely wanting to know and genuinely, able to overcome one's own fear and ask questions. And I think that relationship that I developed with Swamiji, where he validated me and he did not make me feel bad, meant a lot to me. And it's only after 5 years my mind was convinced enough that what Vedanta says is irrefutable. But it was after deep inquiry. And I think that doubt helped me to be a teacher, because first, when others ask questions, I love it because it reminds me of myself. It reminds me of myself, of my own pursuit of wanting to know things. And so for me, it is beautiful. And, and also it is really nice, a teacher, for me, and even for Swamiji, I felt it's most satisfying when somebody deeply engages with you and really want to know what you are saying, and they are not, they shed all other fears or other norms and everything. It just becomes exchange of truth. There is so much beauty in it. Everything else is shed. That exchange is an extraordinary exchange. And in that, otherwise your mind keeps only going into all the periphery and how am I sounding, and is my question stupid or not, will people like it or not? It's all irrelevant. Your mind has to reach, if my classes get your mind to shed all your complexes and only get interested in knowledge and the truth, and you lose everything else. And if you see, right, you shed everything, and if you connect to the truth of the words, I feel elated. Otherwise, all these complexes stay with us and constantly limit us and interfere with flow of knowledge. So to get people to that point where they shed everything and the only thing that they are pursuing is the truth, is the most beautiful moments in anybody's life. And I have seen those moments, and I have been highly enriched by those moments. And as we were pursuing this, what I felt at one point, when I was convinced enough, I decided to go, to the ashram, because for me now it was very important to go and study properly, to assimilate it, to know it. And what is interesting is, as I was listening to it and as I was absorbing it, then all the emotional issues which I had not taken care of, they started surfacing. Now, first few years, it was totally cognitive, using my intellect to figure out rigorously whether it is right or wrong. Now, I had to face myself as an individual, all my vulnerabilities, all my failures as a human being, which I was carrying the pain of. Even though I was relatively successful, but all the inner stories which are with you, some of them are dark. Nobody can escape those stories. And they emerge. And as they emerge, it's not easy. It's not easy to acknowledge I have a lot of work to do. And then came yet another journey of my emotional growth. So that has been my whole engagement with Vedanta. And at one point, it's not like, as I was telling you, it's not that the emotions, at no point emotions go away. At no point even fears go away completely. At no point, everything is just wonderful and your mind is able to process everything 100%. At no point that happens. But what happens is that there is a certain clarity that emerges. When you are going off, you are able to see it. And you are able to bring yourself back. It doesn't guarantee that you will not go off, but you are able to see. This is what we call, the wisdom is about what we call metacognition. What is metacognition? The intellect gives you the ability to recognize the world. What is metacognition? Using your intellect, you can observe what is happening with you objectively. Without hiding, there are no dark corners, you are not trying to pretend anything, you are not trying to show anything, but you are totally lucid about your own fears, your own distortions, your own whatever, but you are able to recognize and you are able to bring yourself back. That if you develop, right, then you have a certain level of mastery and without having to pretend anything to anybody. So also my teaching journey has been yet another journey, because what Swamiji said was beautiful when we were learning. So then my second phase with Vedanta was my emotionally coming together as a human being and becoming a healthy human being. Now the third story is when Swamiji said, now when you begin to be a teacher, there is a possibility of transference. And at that time, I didn't understand what does this transference mean. What the transference means is something very interesting. All of us come with a certain background, and all of us have very deep, sometimes even we do not know what kind of orientations we have. We don't know. So, what Swamiji said is that people will project on you. The minute you say that I'm a teacher of Vedanta, so now in their mind, they are giving you a position of authority. Somebody who knows something and they want to know it. Unconsciously, what it reminds them is of their early childhood when they had a figure of authority and their experiences with that figure of authority. So what it means is, if you have had difficult relationship with your parents, with your mother or with your father, so unknowingly, you in your subconscious, you recreate the same relationship, because your mind, your subconscious mind, recognizes this figure as figure of authority. So what is interesting is, while we were all living with Swamiji, right, people, it's very interesting, people who had healthy relationship with their parents, they all thought of Swamiji as such an amazing person who was so mature, he was so compassionate, he was so brilliant, and everybody was like, wow, what a human being, right? But those who had trouble, with their parents, they saw him, oh, he doesn't like me. Oh, he thinks that, he's not paying attention. He only thinks about the people who he thinks are bright. Or he doesn't love me, or he has no time for us. So what it means is, all these 50 students with one teacher, we all saw Swamiji. All of us loved him, but each one told a different story. And that story had not much to do with Swamiji. It is to do with your experiences with a figure of authority. And as a teacher, you have to manage it. You have to learn to manage it. So what happens is, you yourself cannot get sucked into that story. If you get sucked in, drama starts. Right? Or if you have lack of confidence, you give yourself such a hard time. Somebody asks a little confronting question, and then you start shaking. Oh my God, do I know it? Do I not know it? So all kinds of self-doubts come. And if they accuse you of things, then what? You get also shaken. Oh my God, am I so bad?
It's the same what happens in therapy.
Yeah?
It's the same, yes.
It's the same, right?
Yes, and Swamiji, they didn't study Sigmund Freud, but he knows the same things. It's the same.
Yeah?
It's a basic of therapy that this kind of
Projections happen.
We have own words for this.
Yes.
And in this process,
Yes.
between
Yes.
the teacher or the therapist and the client, to manage his progress, that makes a change.
Yeah.
That makes the people more open, so very well-known process. The same as a teacher.
Can you imagine? And that time I'm like, oh, I don't know, who will even think, because for me he was like so amazing, who will project on him? But then, when I became a teacher, then I saw how many things some people intellectually constantly keep challenging you, because they have this pressure to show that they are very smart, and some people emotionally project on you, and that they have all kinds of needs. And I'm not, somebody's mother and father. I'm a teacher, right? I can't provide all their needs. So all kinds of projections happen, all kinds of expectations happen, and you have to learn to manage without getting either yourself affected or without blaming them. That has been third stage of my learning, which has been extraordinary. So my journey with Vedanta has taken me a long, long, long way. And with Christina, I was telling yesterday, now what is my next thing? To meet all these perhaps influencers, right, in the world, people who, and expose Vedanta to them. And if I'm able to somehow make them see the truth behind Vedanta, and through them, right, I don't always have to be there, but through them, right, if the beauty of Vedanta reaches many more people, that would be really something where I would feel that last few years that I have left, I would have used them meaningfully. So this is my journey with Vedanta.
Do you think that Vedanta is growing in the world?
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah.
My impression is that something like that even more and more scientists or philosophers or they sometimes you read when you read the books or papers, and they do a citation, and you get to know that they have studied Upanishad or Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's more common
It
than
is.
we know. But in our Western world, sometimes they don't be so open with this.
Yes.
because we have another tradition
Yes.
and maybe it seems a little bit spooky, yes?
Yeah.
But when I listen to these people in a radio and podcast, I think this is how it must be that they have read this or studied this. It is just the thinking. And so I have the impression it comes more and more. I hope.
Yeah, I hope.
It comes
I hope.
in our world because there are so much other things that comes also in our world. Because this
Yes.
populism, you know, this dualism, popular positions, and this is another movement, yeah. And I hope that more and more in the discussions come
Yeah.
this thinking.
Yeah, that
more and more.
I feel, and
I
I
have the
feel.
feeling even in our Western philosophy,
Yeah.
I recognize these ideas.
Yeah. See, you have to, at least I'm an optimist, and I like to feel that, yeah, maybe the time has come for, some ideas, the time has come.
For more and more people.
And more people. And if I can, in my last few, decades, if I can make that little, there's no harm in dreaming. If it doesn't happen, it's wonderful, no problem. But if it does, why not, right? So that is something which is my journey. I've learnt a lot, I've grown a lot. It has enriched my life beyond any words. And every time I hear from anybody that you have made a difference in my life, this is my reward for Vedanta, for being a Vedanta teacher. So that is my journey. And there have been intellectual obstacles, emotional obstacles. There have been taking a role as a teacher and dealing with students' expectations and projection has been yet another big learning. So there have been many learnings and many challenges, but it has been super interesting, and I would not change my life even a bit. So all the unconventional decisions and all the exploring life in a totally different way, but it has enriched me
Do Vedantic
tremendously.
teachers go in retreat?
Sorry?
Do a Vedantic teacher go in Rente? Retire?
So if somebody asked me this question in France this time, that when will you retire? I said, I would like to teach until the last day of my life, provided I have a student who wants to listen. I don't know. I want to teach doesn't mean people want to
Of
learn.
course, they ask the question in France because they retire at 60 or something.
So
that's the first thing they ask.
We have 67 in Germany, you can work longer.
So, anybody wants to share a little bit your personal journey, your personal struggles, your personal search, anything, because this is, and where you start, how did you come out? Anybody? Yeah.
When I met you at the Berlinsee,
Yes.
you said that I could not have control over things. And that was very strong lesson for me, and it's still a strong lesson, because you explained why I can't have, and it shaped me very much, because I thought it's my duty to take control over my life. And a few years before, I thought I lost in several things the control, and I worked very hard to get the control back. And then you stay there and say you can't have control over the things around you. And I work with it in that years. I know Vedanta, and I can learn it in small things. And one was the meditation. I developed the practice of meditation and japa. And then I thought doing japa is like you told, you say the mantra and you try to stay with the mantra. And what I did long time was trying to have control. When I recognized my body went somewhere else, I took it back as with the energy of control. No, you don't have to go there. This is mantra time. You have to be here. And it took me a long time to recognize that I do not in life that control. I also do it in meditation. And it took me to your prayer class, and there you explained that this also doesn't work that way, and you told it today the second time for me, and I think this is for me what I do in japa practice, not to do it as having control. So this issue is nearby me in several daily things, but also in japa practice.
Wow.
I struggle very often with that.
Wow. That is very, very important what you are saying, Amma, because we all feel much safer when we feel as though we can control everything around us, right? And it's not that we don't do things to get things our way, but then control creates stress.
Yeah.
So if you want to enjoy life, you have to learn to do things well, like how you do, right? But then you also understand that there are n number of variables that you can't totally, you're not in charge of, and you don't need to carry the burden for them, right? You'd have to do your part well. And I think that just brings joy and it brings lightness. And I think without reducing your efficiency, when you give up that over responsibility, you can begin to enjoy.
Yes, when you told it for the first time, I got immediately what will be the value of not control everything.
Yeah.
But it took a long way to see it in how many
different
issues
ways.
And I do it.
Yeah. Very good. Very nice. Anybody else?
I can share something beautiful which I experienced in 2022 when I was together with you. We were traveling from Bad Meinberg to Belgium to Speyer, and the first time in my life I was together with you, and I had the feeling that I could totally be as a human being who I am. There was no judgment, and sometimes we were laughing about what was coming out of our mouth, and we were laughing. And this was the first time in my life I experienced, because also with my parents, which I love very much, but they also say, what's your weight? Have you lost weight? And all those questions. And with you together, it was, with hindsight, I saw it was like being born new. It felt like having been born into a new life where I was exactly accepted who I am as a human being. This was what I experienced then. And when I started teaching your book, I bought a Zoom meeting. I was totally free. Nobody was expecting what I say or what I have to charge or whatever. And during these 2.5 years, you know that I opened up more and more. And when I started teaching this, or showing myself, I would say, from deeply inside, sometimes I was a little bit that I thought, so, oh my God, what did you feel?
What am I revealing about myself? Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
because it was recorded and
Yes.
I was sending it out. And, but during the time I realized there were those moments again and again that I thought, oh my God, you showed yourself totally as a human being. But this was possible because I was not expecting that a student comes, that someone says, you are the teacher. I was totally free of it. So it was my own Zoom account, and I said, I want to say my truth. And this was a huge growing for me to show, and also 2 weeks ago I told stories about what happened, and it's so nice not to protect yourself, to hold you back, then to accept what is going on the level of a human being, and also to accept that sometimes it's a little bit irritated and what's going on here, and also to show this and to say, I see the mind is going in a different way, and to have fun about it and to see what's going on in a human being. And this is, I would say, after all those years of study, it is the situation I'm facing now, that I can show me more and more as a human being. I don't make a show what I know. I never tell anything or tell all those stories enlightened and something. Never, because I don't know what's coming. I see it's growing and growing, and I don't know what all will come in the future. So, but this is really, I think, I feel like I'm an adult now. I'm able to handle the topics, and I'm able to struggle. This also is what I see. I'm able to struggle and to show it, and this is my journey.
Very nice.
With you.
Very nice. I think the less pressure you have of showing people who you are, the more mature you are. Right. So that is very nice.
Yeah,
very
it's
nice.
so healing
and
to
it's so healing.
not to
yeah.
hold back. It's healing
Yeah.
to understand when do I have to be quiet in some situations. It's not good to do what I'm doing during the teaching, but also to have the discriminative mind to see, here I can open up and I can show everything what's inside, and yeah.
Very nice. Wonderful. Great. Now this is a huge sign of maturity.
When I remember when we started in 2015 with Karl and Jutta, and I remember our first weekend in Bad Meinberg, and Karl taught us the Upanishaden. I understand nothing. It was so strange, so new. Interesting, but it was so. I was so tired after an hour because it was so much. It was in the beginning. It was a very different kind of thinking, and I felt a lot of resistance.
You felt
inside me, and it makes me angry. I felt.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I was not only angry. What is? It was interesting, but sometimes it also makes me at the same time. Sometimes make me angry when I couldn't understand it, and I have to ask questions. The other knows it from the course. I was known as the person who always was very critical, and sometimes very nervig, annoying, and because I have so much resistance, and I think I don't believe any Indian guru what she or he told me. I have to really understand it, and I think in the beginning it was very hard to start with this Upanishad. But then when I read more and more, it comes more and more, and it comes more and more self-evident. So I could say it in the meantime, and it's a long journey. I need this time, and in the beginning I was always asking questions, and I have to learn to listen. I know, and one of the first meetings with you told us you have to first to listen to your teacher, and then you can ask questions. It's still a problem with me. I have a question I must ask. But first to listen, to take what is, to try to understand, to open my mind, to let it in, and then ask me, is it true, is it not true? And so this is also a very important process for me.
Great. Yeah. The mind has its own resistance, right?
Yeah.
Because Okay, so now the second question I have is meditation. How was the first 2 steps of meditation, just familiarizing yourself with the body? And the second is japa meditation. Was it easy? Was it not easy? How was it?
At first, it was very good for me. I slept through it.
He was not the only one.
Yes, he was breathing behind me.
So the first was good,
Yeah.
nice nap. Then the
The
second.
second, strangely enough, I can't say anything special about it. It was just like every other chaotic meditation session I've ever had. In the sense, it's always exactly the same. Not that I think the same thoughts every time, but the same process of you start out like the first 2 minutes you're very idealistic and you say, yes, my mind will be like a laser focused thing, and after about 2 seconds it goes off. Then you bring it back. It's always the same kind of thing. Yeah.
So, okay. So it kept going out.
Yeah, kept going out, kept bringing it in, but that's just the regular
Yeah, but that's
thing.
meditation anyway.
Yeah.
So that means you did it well.
I don't know. I mean, it's funny that many people, I think especially beginning meditators, have this sort of idealized view of what a good meditator is. And I think everybody, I don't know if everybody, but surely I had it in the beginning, a meditation session has to be a certain thing, and a good meditator is a certain thing.
Yeah.
But after you do it a few years, that's a meaningless thing, a good meditator. What does it even mean? I don't know.
Okay, great. No, this is nice. Just as dharma, emotions, we have to rework our relationship with the world. Is it detachment or it is in nice enthusiastic engagement? Meditation also, we need to rethink what exactly is meditation. So, because see, the minute you start telling yourself, what he's saying is very important. I cannot meditate because my mind begins to think about other things. You have given yourself a label. I cannot meditate. But actually the meditation practice is about, the meditation understands that your mind will go off. And then what is your job? To bring it back. So if your mind goes off, it's not meditating if you're able to bring it back. So I think less labels, less pressure, more growth takes place. That you need to learn to be alert, discriminative, and not this. That it's very interesting what Amba said, that even in japa there is this whole control. It's interesting because now what she's saying is very interesting, that external things you can learn, okay, now I have to give up control, but then you don't even recognize what is your own relationship with your own mind. It's also control. And all the time, everything is control. And that never allows you the freedom. So alertness, discriminativeness, that ability to discern, but allowing yourself to little bit flow with life rather than to control everything. Because the fact is, you don't control. That is a fact. It's not an advice.
So can I tell a story?
Yeah.
See, I'm teaching my MBA students to meditate, okay? And many of them, you will be surprised, what do you think is the percentage of Indian students who are the brightest? I have the brightest students because we are top, let's say, school. What is the percentage of these youngsters who have ever meditated in their life?
10%.
Huh?
10%.
Not even.
Really? In India?
Not even. In India.
Yeah, 3%, 2%.
Yeah, exactly.
Who have ever meditated?
Yeah, so this is one thing. So then my task, so this is one big thing, right? Then the second thing is that when I ask them to, I teach them and I change the relationship they have with their mind and so on. And all this, we've been bliss and ecstasy and whatever. See, they have a lot of ideas because in this culture, it's there, right? And also a lot of wrong ideas also. So I dispel a lot of myths first, like what the starting point, like what Nima was doing this morning, and then I make them practice. But after that, I ask them for 10 days to meditate only for 10 minutes a day. And I ask them to write about their experience. Is it a surprise what they would write? What they would write to them? In spite of me dispelling the myth, in spite of me like explaining all the wrong assumptions and so on, what do they write?
I'm not able to meditate.
Nobody is saying I'm not able and it's chaos and it's very difficult. They are all like saying, yeah, I was in bliss and I was very glad. I was very tranquil and it was an amazing experience. And one day after the other, and the first day was okay, but the second day was even better. The third was deeper. No one was honest.
So
No one was honest?
No one was honest.
Did you ask them to write their names on the...
Yes.
Maybe.
Because it was...
I mean, maybe then it would be...
So I saw this is the first assignment. Then the second assignment, I said, all the people who have written them, they will have the worst marks. And the people who have written honestly about their experience and say that it was a struggle for me, they will have the best marks.
Because
Then we changed everything.
just doing for the art. But I really thought that Indians are much more into meditation. Because we always say in the West that they are so good in these IT things because they can focus and because they are used to meditation. It's a myth.
It's a myth.
Thank you for revealing.
Okay, so now the next step of meditation. I will introduce and then we will do next. So the first step is getting familiar with your body. Second is japa meditation to get a certain focus in your mind. The third step is understand the meaning of the chant. Suppose you say, as he said, Ishaya Namaha. What does it mean? What is his chant? My salutations to Isha. Isha is that intelligence which pervades the whole universe. But it's not just salutations. If I really understand that there is one intelligence which pervades the whole universe, and the universe is governed not according to my fancies or fancies of anybody, but according to infallible laws, then I can't have any complaints. I can't have any dissatisfaction if I understand the meaning of what is Isha. But if I'm stuck with a lot of dissatisfaction, which is based on my own personal narrative, I need to look at that and I need to correct it. I need to do it. So that means my salutations to Ishvara has to be used in your own life to heal yourself completely and fully. So when can you say, one thing is very interesting, my teacher used to, all of us have gone through difficult situations. There is nobody whoever has lived life, right, has gone through their own challenge. There is nobody who is exempt from the challenge. So all those challenges that we went through, and at that, now it may not seem like a big deal, but at that time, it was a big deal, suppose. And that left some scars in us. And at that time, we didn't know how to handle these scars. So they are within us and they create some unease and discomfort within us. So now, look at this. The time has come for you to move forward in the teaching. You need to close all the circles of your personal story of pain. If you do not close your stories of pain, that pain will continue to guide you and create a parallel reality. What you understand is one thing, but you can't, your emotional life and your cognitive life, they don't go hand in hand. Many times people understand many things, but their emotional life has its own trajectory. I will give you an example. So when I was studying in the ashram, so there was this boy and he was adopted, right? And he didn't know who his parents were. So the parents who adopted him he was a policeman, right, in Orissa. So, the policeman means all strict disciplinarian. So he used to be punished a lot, sometimes even physically punished. And so he grew up with a double trauma, the feeling of abandonment, which is that my parents left me. But the second trauma was that people who adopted me were overly strict and all the time, reprimanding me and always kind of showing anger and giving no love. So one day, this person, he left his home. He was just totally, and he went to Rishikesh. And he stayed in one ashram and he just started doing, some role of a priest. So he was a priest. Then he heard that Swami Dayananda is starting a course in Anekati. So he applied for the course. So he came. He was studying with me. He was in my course. And it turned out he himself did not know. When he reached and he started studying, it turned out that he was super bright. Super means really brilliant. So his cognitive mind was able to understand Vedanta, all the commentaries. He was brilliant at Sanskrit. So his cognitive mind was growing like this, but all the pain, all the traumas, that is the time it started surfacing. Because the mind found some place of relaxation, it all came out. And he was so deeply disturbed. And what was his conclusion? His conclusion was, Vedanta is brilliant, but it's not helping me. Because I'm more in pain now than before. Why? It's not that he was not in pain, but his pain was coming up. So that means your cognitive and your emotional mind don't move together. And in fact, the more you understand, more that pain comes out. Because it finds that safe place now to express itself before it was too suppressed.
But then you need someone who explains it to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it came to a point when he wanted to leave. He says, I can't take it. The measure of pain that I'm going through is unsupportable. And he wanted to leave. And exactly what we said is, we all spoke to him, and Swamiji also spoke to him and said, actually you are learning a lot. The time has come for you to release all this pain. That's why the universe is bringing it in the forefront. You need to acknowledge it and you need to release it and you need to heal. If you don't do that, it will keep interfering.
Did you stay?
So then what happened is, but he, I think, see, when you are in pain, your cognitive side somehow is not able to manage your emotional life if it is going a little bit out. So I think we all helped him and Swamiji helped him, and the idea was that he let him go away, but only for a few months, then he can come back. And he was given a choice to come back. So at that time, he decided to leave, but it's not like he decided to leave forever, right? So he came back on his own after 2 or 3 months. So, and when he came back, he was much more realistic, and he was able to then continue, and he was able to, help himself much more. But what it then means is that healing has to take place. One healing is, normal healing, but one is almost like what we call catharsis. You know what the meaning of catharsis is?
Catharsis.
Huh?
Catharsis.
Yeah, catharsis, exactly. What it means is there comes a place where you can't hide yourself from yourself, and everything is clear to you, but if you have the wisdom, what happens is you go through the pain and you overcome the pain, and that pain almost forever leaves you.
Because you really face it.
Because you faced it, and you have not dodged it, and you have not tried to suppress it. From then, it's almost like another birth. And you don't have to, you don't have to wait. You don't know. Universe will do it for you.
But you see what kind of process it is. It is not only the words and knowledge in the
No.
It is a total process.
It is
of
a
the whole human
total
being.
metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Vedanta is
Yeah.
a total metamorphosis. This is why they say self-transformation. If it is only cognitive, and if this hasn't stirred you, you have some time to go before it actually does that inner stirring, and it has to change you as a human being. That is so important. From there, you are a different human being.
Beautiful.
And
Nima, do you think it was? I think, but I don't know. What do you think? Was it important that there were some people who believes in him, who has a compassion, and who told them,
yes,
we trust you, you
Yes.
fight it, but it's so hard to do this
on your own.
You
Yes, yes,
need people who gives you
yes,
with you and at your side.
Yes.
Even some important person like
Because-
Swami
Jay.
who
Yeah,
who
it
said, I
really
believe you, I
helps a lot.
trust you, and you do this.
Yes.
This is a very
It
important.
helps. And even like, there are so many dark things that you are ashamed of talking about yourself and things like that. And you don't know who to go and tell, because, we all have some image that we want to protect. We don't want to show the whole of us. All of us have that, some things that, not because we want to hide, but we are ashamed or whatever, and we don't want to reveal all of this. It takes a lot of courage. And there comes a point that you have to do it, because if you don't, you're stuck. And we all had to, somebody that we loved very much, like Swamiji, and showed our darkest side to him. Darkest side, totally revealed, as Sita Devi was saying, that there are no filters. You tell him the most difficult thing that you think is totally unacceptable, and you tell him. And he doesn't feel shocked. He doesn't. And I think this is all therapists do, right? anything that anybody can tell you, and you kind of understand, right, where that person is. And you don't judge the person, and you don't say, this is not good, this is horrible, this is not acceptable. You understand. You understand human vulnerabilities. You understand human pain. You understand only when you have done this job with yourself, you can help the others. Otherwise, you can't help the others. Everything becomes only intellectual. That's when you become human. That's when you begin to see Vedanta not as some beautiful logical ideas, but as realities which can be lived, which are multidimensional. And absolutely right, Sabina. If we didn't have this kind of a support, first of all, if Swamiji didn't have that multi-dimensional thing, and if he was only cognitive, it would not even trigger this in us. It is because he is this person, therefore no side of our personality was allowed to be hidden. And then came that whole crossing of the threshold. But this is the journey, and this is a real journey which is, I think, almost everybody who is sincerely studying, because the human being has to give up one thing that Swamiji used to say: a seed has to give up its seedness to grow into a tree. It can't keep its seedness and then grow into a tree. If you're stuck with all your hurt and pain and all of these stories and narratives and whatever, you can't understand I'm the whole. It's not possible, because those stories will keep pulling you down. You need to address those stories, and you need to, come to terms with it. You need to face it, and you need to diffuse it. And there is only one place you can do it, which is Ishvara. There is no other place. Why? Because when you bring Ishvara, you bring infallibility in life. It's not a person who can make a mistake. Laws of gravity don't make a mistake. Laws of genetics don't make a mistake. And they are impersonal, and they are impartial. They are not trying to favor one and against somebody else. And in that fact, infallibility, you understand everybody's behavior. And you stop blaming anybody. You understand what is happening. You understand human vulnerabilities. You understand human frailties, but you don't blame anybody. You're lucid about, yes, that behavior was inappropriate. But that doesn't mean this person was cruel. Do you understand the difference between that behavior was inappropriate? But the second is a title that you give. This person was cruel. This person did not have love. This is your added story. That added story has to go.
But I think
without denying. We are not saying, oh, everybody is loving, and without, oh yeah, everybody is wonderful. We are not creating this la-la land of spirituality.
But this is the idea of our justice system. You don't judge. You judge the behavior, not the person.
Not the
this
person.
is the idea of our modern justice.
Yes. Which is good. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think many people are confused by if they understand something, they'll also be justifying it, and they don't want to go there.
Can you explain?
If there is some behavior, let's say someone insulted you, by the mere fact of me understanding or trying to understand what was the cause for that, I am justifying that. I think people don't want to go there.
Yeah. So people don't want to go there, and I can see why they don't want to go there. Because look at this. You need to, if I'm thinking about what you could be thinking when you did it, I could be totally wrong. You see what I mean? I don't know what you were thinking, but there is one thing that we all need to understand, and that is what you were thinking or you were not thinking, I may never have access to, but the pain that I'm carrying is my problem. And I have to find a way to heal myself. So when you bring, so this is the next part, why am I talking about it is, Ishaya Namaha, the meaning of this chant is to let go. Don't personalize all the hurt. I think this is just a simple example, and then I'll stop, and then I'll, somebody told me a story which is a very interesting story. When she was young, her father told her that, to get you married, I have to pay a dowry. But your sister is beautiful, so to get her married, I don't have to pay anything. Imagine a young child grows up listening to this from your father. What is it going to do to this child? First, I'm not attractive. Nobody will marry me because they love me. My dad will have to pay somebody so that they marry me. At a young age. Imagine the burden. And she said she was broken as a human being because she kept hearing it. And then what she said is, when she got married, now we don't know why her husband got married, but in her head, he married because of dowry. So what is a relationship when it starts with thinking that nobody is going to love me, I'm not capable of being loved, it's only somebody is marrying me because my dad offered some money. Otherwise, nobody will like me, I'm not likable. What kind of relationship she is going to build? What her dad did is his problem, but if she thinks like this, what is it going to do? Affect the rest of her life. So now, it becomes your job. You don't ever know why your dad said, but you have to start a new chapter. You can't let that meaning rule the rest of your life. It will become a mess. You have to free yourself from the impact of those words. That's your job. Because if you keep carrying it, you will carry it forward in every other relationship. So that is in that Ishvara's order. That is what I will teach you. Without lying, without saying, oh, my dad loved me, he just said it. That will not do the job of healing. You have to acknowledge it was said. You have to acknowledge it hurt me. But you also have to say, I want to free myself. I want to write another story. I don't want to live from repeating this story and keep on affecting in every domain that I... So there is a whole process of freeing yourself without changing the story. And without denying what happened, right? But you have to change the trajectory. If you don't change the trajectory, the traumas which you faced, everybody faces some trauma or the other, they will continue to rule you, and you will still, that expansion that has to happen of that individual, it will abort that process. So this is the next step of meditation, which is healing with the understanding of Ishvara. My salutations to Ishvara is not an ordinary sentence. In that, the real person and real, all that is just offered. Offered, all the problems, all the pain, everything is offered at the altar, and a new person is born. The person has faced, and the person has crossed the threshold rather than is stuck. So the next step we will see tomorrow in meditation. But the good story is everybody can fully and totally heal oneself. This is a reality. And what is healing? It is not that there is no pain. But one thing I will say, that when we ask Swamiji, when can we say that we have healed enough and freed ourselves from past trauma? He said, you go through your life and you take those most difficult events and you bring them. So if you're not healed, what will happen? Your stomach will keep going like this. You will feel tensed. Your mind will feel a little unease. If you can see it like a movie, recognize what it is. You're not in denial. You're not trying to fool yourself. You're not telling yourself something which is not true. But it doesn't create this deep discomfort and pain in you. Then you have healed yourself. So we have to reach that level. So meditation helps you to do it. So we'll see tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. But please, one thing is, Vedanta has to bring joy to your life. And it has to bring cheerfulness. And this is, please don't say, oh my God, I have to do all this work and I have to do it with all the pain and the pain will come out and all. I'm not giving you a dark picture. Please don't understand. That crossing is an incredible crossing. From there starts your real freedom. You're not afraid. Right? There is a beautiful Vedic prayer, Setu Staraha, crossing that bridge.
It's true what you say. It's fine. The bells are ringing.
The bells are ringing. The bells. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.